Hello and welcome to Inspire. It's great to have you with us on this video. If you're new to Inspire, then my name is Rob Perks, I'm the CEO. This video is not primarily about us, it's about you as businesses, but if you'd like to find out more about us, then do head over to our website at www.inspirebeers.co.uk/team and you can find out more about each of us. All of us have had business careers and many of us are still running businesses and therefore grappling with exactly the same issues as you are. So we are genuinely all in this together. This video is primarily about facing into the future of what we're calling the new low-touch economy as we evolve out of the past 2 or 3 months crisis period. This video is divided into 2 sections. The first will look at the scenario that we see unfolding in the coming months, and the second part will focus more on some planning tools that we have available to help us actually create a plan for the future. So heading straight on with it into the first part, which is the new low-touch economy, we're going to look at 3 key areas. Why our world will be very different, as we believe it will, some examples of expected shifts in consumer behaviour and that opportunities that presents to us, and then how different industries are impacted. As I say, the second half will look at some practical planning. So, why our world will be very different? Well, we could be in danger here of stating the obvious, and I'll try not to do that, but clearly we have entered a very, very steep and unprecedented recession caused unusually by the shutting down of economies right across the world. So that's something we've not seen in our living memory, where governments, for health reasons, have literally almost closed the economy down for many industries. So we've heard lots of talk about the different shapes of recovery. Our job at Inspire is to distill all of that information and to come up with a central case or a best scenario of what is most likely, in our view, to be the situation over the coming year or two. So we've heard about V-shaped recoveries, where we have a very steep recession followed by a very steep recovery. We've heard about U-shaped recessions, where we go down into a recession, we stay bumping along the bottom for a little while, and then eventually we come out reasonably strongly. We've heard of W-shaped recessions, which is the double dip, dreaded double dip. And then the one that's emerging that we quite favour is the slightly skew V. So a V that descends rapidly into recession and then comes out reasonably strongly but more slowly than we went in. And that's what we believe is the most likely scenario as we sit here at the beginning of June when we're making this video. So the world will be different for various reasons. It's different inevitably because of this low-touch economy that's developing. So we can see that many consumers are concerned about meeting together, or in fact they're prevented from meeting together by government restrictions. So social distancing is likely to be here with us for some months to come, and that will impact on a lot of businesses in terms of how people can meet together. We've seen the situation of companies having to suddenly contract and potentially not be able to re-emerge in the same form as they went in. So for businesses in tourism and hospitality, for example, those businesses are unlikely just to come back again exactly as they were before. They're going to have to make quite a lot of long-term changes. Some manufacturing businesses will need to change their practices because of the requirement to have people distanced. Some people that need to meet with others on a regular basis will need to find a different way of doing it. Those who rely on large gatherings, so big sporting events and other big events of lots of people coming together, those will need to change because those things are unlikely to be possible in the near future. And even when they are, there'll be distancing requirements which will impact significantly on the ability of those businesses to carry on exactly as they were before. So we are entering a new world. We will see more recession, more unemployment over the course of the next couple of months. We feel it is likely that that's only just beginning. We've seen quite a lot in the States, but we believe there is more to come in the UK as businesses get back to work, find their revenues are shrunk and therefore they don't need as many people, or they certainly can't afford as many people. but also as businesses start to realise that perhaps they can make do with less people because of the efficiencies that are being seen as a result of interacting in ways like this, rather than perhaps travelling all over the place to meetings. So we will see a very different world, and a different world that presents opportunities but also challenges. So some of those things that will change will be imposed by governments. So we're seeing that a lot at the moment with the lockdown, but as the lockdown eases, different things are allowed, some things are not allowed. So we'll see that continuing, I think, up and down. Probably won't be a straight path over the coming months. And then on the other side, there are behaviours and new habits that are emerging as customers and consumers get used to different ways of doing things. So people will voluntarily change the way they're doing things. At the moment, lots of people can go back to work if they really want to, but a lot are choosing to work from home, and some of those new sorts of behaviours will continue, we think. Buying things online as opposed to in a shop. We've seen lots of people that previously were not really using online for retail and now using online for retail. In some cases, quite a lot. So those sorts of things are likely to change and stay changed. Some of the shocks are still unfolding. We see in the developing world, the crisis is only getting going, sadly, for them in a lot of cases, whereas perhaps we're over the peak in the developed world, but nevertheless aftershocks and other issues such as bankruptcies of businesses, unemployment, and those sorts of things are still to come. So some of those things don't sound greatly optimistic, but I think we have to be real about these things as we move forward. And then let's look at some shifts in some of the customer behaviours that we believe we'll see. So the first thing is that I think we need to be aware of is an increase in anxiousness and loneliness of people that are holed up at home, maybe working from home, they haven't got family around them, and they're starting to suffer from those sorts of mental health issues. We need to be alive to that as business leaders, because if we don't address that with the people that work for us and look after them, provide the support they need, then that's going to impact on our productivity and our ability to do business. There's wider social complications, obviously, with all of that, but particularly for us as businesses, we must be aware of that. Maybe you're even suffering with it yourself. So getting the right kind of help and support is really, really important for us at this point. Optimised work from home. So most of us have had to work from home, or many of us have had to work from home in the course of the last few months. And I don't know about you, but I used to just find a corner of the kitchen table or in the dining room or somewhere, set my laptop off and do a bit of work at home if I needed to. That's not really doable as we move into a situation where we're likely to work from home much, much more. Maybe there's family around and that's not practical. Maybe we haven't got the right equipment that we need to be able to work that amount from home. So making sure that all our staff have got the necessary equipment to be able to do a proper job from home. They've got the broadband speed, the laptops, the printers if they need them, and other technologies that enable them to work efficiently from home. Really important. And we'll see opportunities develop there as people have to set those offices up. Sometimes literally an office space, and create maybe a new room in the garden or a new room in the house. So for those involved in construction and other areas, there's opportunities there to supply those goods and services. Much more take-home and home delivery services. Clearly we're going to see a lot more of that. We've seen it already. I think that will continue. A lot of people will get used to it and stick with it. Damaged trust in the hygiene of products. Consumers will be concerned that items they're receiving into their house are hygienic and aren't contaminated. And also where we need to work in people's homes, being able to assure customers that someone coming into their home is suitably attired and in a condition that's not going to transmit infection into their home will be really, really important. Especially the case with the older generation where people are perhaps more vulnerable. If your customer base is mainly older, think about how you supply your products or services in such a way as it's safe for them, and interacting in a different way with them, or a different angle, thinking about how you might need to broaden your customer base so that you're not so dependent on the older generation, which might limit your opportunity. And then travel, making sure that we can get around as much as we need to, but the fact that travel is restricted, particularly international travel, is going to be much more difficult. So how do we make sure our supply chains are in place? How do we make sure we can do business with people in other countries without needing to travel? That's the challenge we'll need to address. I think we'll see a lot more localized supply chains where people perhaps are willing to pay a little bit more to have their supply chain locally rather than have to get products that were perhaps a bit cheaper from other countries. So there's an opportunity if you're a business that could supply your products to businesses locally, and perhaps in the past you've been priced out by cheap competition from abroad. Maybe people are now prepared to pay that little bit more to have the convenience and the security of buying products more locally. So opportunities. The unprecedented levels of global unemployment in some strange way is a silver lining for those businesses that need to recruit good talent and skills into their business. Because whereas historically it's been very difficult in the last 10 or 15 years to find really good people because the job market has been so tight, if there are people coming onto the market because their businesses are contracting, then there could be opportunities to recruit good people into your business that are coming onto the market. So being really aware of that and looking for opportunities to take advantage of that, really, really important at this point in time to get key people into the business. There'll be an element of retraining required, quite possibly, and I do suspect government will continue to fund a lot of the training to get people back into the workplace and retrained. There's already free training available, funded training, and if you're interested in getting access to that funded training for any of your staff, then do talk to us, because we'd be delighted to put you in touch with the right people to get that happening for you. So some of these things we just got to expect, the anxiousness, we can expect the need for more therapy, more coaching, and for that to be remotely delivered in many cases. So there's an opportunity if you're a therapist or a coach, really important. The hygiene impact is really important. So making sure that your products are delivered in such a way as people feel they're safe and hygienic. And there's an opportunity if you're a business that supplies packaging and that sort of thing for products, to make sure that you can deliver a product for your business-to-business customer that enables them to get their product to the consumer in a safe way. So there's opportunities around that as well as challenges. Local tourism may well flourish because holidays abroad, at least for a while, are going to be difficult. So there's an opportunity there if people are coming to your area as tourists. There may be an opportunity. In the housing market, we might see people moving to areas that are a bit more remote, a bit more rural. See, that's more attractive than living in the big cities, perhaps with no garden space. So that might be an opportunity for you as a business as people start to do that. I think we'll see the contraction of big office spaces as people no longer need those very large spaces to operate in because people are working from home. So again, there's an opportunity there to supply services as well as to meet the challenge of that if you're an office deliverer of office space. Yes, the unemployment situation, reskilling, retraining, can't overemphasize that enough. Really great opportunity to bring people into your business. Home delivery, everything now wants to be home delivered, whether it's services, whether it's products. People are keen to get things without having to go out and mix with people to get them. So if you can take an experience, not just a product, it may be a product, but more interestingly for experiences. So a simple example, going to the cinema, deliver films at home. So Netflix clearly is in a great place, but other experiences, think about, could the desire of your customer to have the experience that they would have liked to go out for, but they would still like to have that experience, but it will need to be brought to them. Is that something that your business can actually do and still create? I've heard about, I'm not sure how they work actually, but I've heard about almost holidays brought to your home, where somebody turns up with your breakfast in the morning and activities to do during the day and all this kind of stuff. But interesting thoughts, innovative thoughts. So we need to keep them in touch with all that kind of thing. The digital adoption has been massively increased as a result of this crisis. So what was happening already is now happening even faster and even more rapidly with people adopting digital means where they weren't before. So there's a real opportunity there. And that raises this spectre of the universal living wage. Now, this is something I would have been quite wary about until 2 or 3 months ago, but I think as we find that more digital, more artificial intelligence, more robotics are coming into play, the more we need less people to actually be in the labour market producing goods and services, because it's being handled through automation. Then how do we spread the wealth between those who are in the labour market and those who are not? So just leave that as a thought, but that creates all kinds of opportunities for goods and services. But it's something that I'm sure is going to evolve over the course of the next 2 or 3 years. How different industries are impacted, well, clearly this is a prelude really to the planning tools, which we'll cover in a bit more depth in our second video. But just to get you thinking, clearly some businesses are much more affected than others. Now, we've taken 5 key headings, worth making a note of these, although we're happy to send to you the planning tools if you either email us, call us, or get in touch. We're very happy to do that. But 5 key headings to look at for your business. Firstly, does your business rely on large gatherings of people? Big sporting events is an obvious one, but lots of other ways. So where lots of people congregate together. Heading number 1. Heading number 2, is close human interaction requirement in your business? Do people need to get together on a one-to-one basis or a one to a small group? So typically therapists, typically dentists, people like that need to be in close contact to deliver their service. Is that vital in your business? Third, hygiene. How important is hygiene? So when people access your product or your service, how important is it in their mind that they can do it in a hygienic way, or a way that it minimises risk of infection? Fourthly, is your business dependent on people travelling around a lot, especially international travel, but even travel within the UK? And then fifthly and finally, is your service or product postponable? So in other words, people can put it off, or is it expendable? They just don't bother with it. So discretionary. So they're the 5 headings: large gatherings, close human contact, hygiene, depending on travel, and postponable or expendable. You can rate those then high, medium or low. So it's a big impact, a medium-sized impact, or quite a low impact. And then you can average that out and get a final score, which will give you the likely impact on your business or industry from the current crisis. Now, we're going to move on in the second of these videos to looking at some planning tools to say, how do we bring all that information together in such a way as we can create a plan that's exciting and can deliver real growth opportunities for our business. So I encourage you to come with me on the second of these videos. It'll be about the same length, maybe a bit shorter, and we'll just look at some key planning tools that we can use to make sure our business is one of the survivors and not one of the victims of this current crisis. And I look forward to doing that with you in just a moment.